I'm a Good evening, y'all. This is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank, and I'm coming at you live from Tunnel Hills in Hardin County, Kentucky, where we know that the only things that make everything worthwhile is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we are here to pursue those. Y'all, I am the educated hillbilly. No, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated rural folks since Kentucky began, and since my ancestors came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone. Now, I've got someone that I used to serve in the military with. We went through some intensive training together years ago, and that is Liz Davenport, retired Navy chief, hospital corpsman chief, Liz Davenport. I'm going to let you talk about, Liz, what it was that you did in the Navy, which is the same thing, of course, mostly that I did, and what you miss and what you don't miss about Navy.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
For sure. Yeah, we were together for an entire year of training, 2004, 2005 in San Diego for independent duty corpsman school, which was probably the most fun I've ever had in my life. It really exaggerated the fun that we had as corpsmen, right?
Yeah.
So I was in for 25 years. I spent 8 years with the Marine Corps, 3 years with the Seabees, 4 years at Naval Special Warfare, and I did 4 different clinics. So out of that, I got 11 deployments, tons of experience, just amazing experience all the way around the world.
So did you max out the time that allowed you to stay in at 25?
Yeah, it was actually 24, but I was doing operations with Naval Special Warfare. That's where I retired from. So they extended me for a year. That's how I got to 25. My higher tenure was 24.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Basically a backdoor draft almost, right?
Yeah,
Like I expect to almost have happen again here soon. What do you miss the most about service? You were just talking about it earlier, kind of.
Sorry. But
Same with me.
I miss the camaraderie, honestly. The camaraderie was the best. Once you retire, you become kind of isolated if you don't have family. And I have my kids, but I'm not married, thank God. And so, yeah, it's kind of tough to get through it, but it is what it is. But the things that I liked the most, I ended up not only being an IDC, but I was a medical planner. And so I contributed to an ad hoc medical planner, by the way, but I contributed to some theater plans and, tactical and what's the next one up? There's theater, tactical. So tactical and strategic plans. Medical plans, and I got to tour a lot of hospitals around the world and do really cool stuff. I think that was my favorite part beyond being an IDC.
Yeah, and I would say, of course, the camaraderie was huge for me. I mean, I definitely missed that. We had a lot of good camaraderie, just like you're saying. And I also miss the travel. I miss being able to travel for free around the world, even around the United States, having someone pay for me to go everywhere and be able to meet new people all over the place, develop those relationships.
Absolutely.
Now I found just as much camaraderie and definitely just as much. I hesitate to say more, but definitely just as much as a teacher in an underprivileged school in Jefferson County, Kentucky. So I live here in Hardin County, teach in Jefferson County. I taught for 2 years in Hardin County, loved it. And yeah, I just really finding that is providing me is the same type of fulfillment, helping young minds out, knowing that, hey, these guys are someday going to be replacing me, either as a sailor, a Marine,
training your relief.
Yeah, training our relief.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Thank you for doing that. That's continuing your service to the American people.
That's how I feel. Now I'm also running for magistrate here in District 3 in Hardin County. I want to keep on serving. We've got a great county here. Fort Knox is located here, which provides, I think it's like $1.8 billion that they have a budget there, for that base. That's a lot of work there, civilians and Army, and that's a huge boon to our economy when it's not getting screwed with shutdowns like happened the last time, and that really hurt not just the folks there on the base, but the economy, the people that rely on them coming out, shopping at the mom and pop stores and joints we have all over this county.
Yeah. So the things I would say that I don't miss is, in order to keep my job, I was required to get a COVID vaccine, and I was not thrilled about that. But now I see that the tides, or what is it called?
The pendulum.
The pendulum is swinging opposite now, with all these things that are happening, and I couldn't even imagine being active duty right now, to be honest with you. It's crazy.
Now, I guess that'd be the only thing that we disagree on, because I was working at the VA when COVID started, and holy crap, I was working in the sterilization, area of the hospital. So we sterilized all the instruments, and I was trainer for that. But once COVID hit, everything was closed down except for keeping people alive that had COVID.
Yeah.
I saw like a 35-year-old veteran come in, perfect health before COVID, and he ended up dying from it. So I saw, as soon as they got that vaccine, I'm like, give it to me. I happened to be on a wonderful trip right when COVID started. We didn't realize it was starting. I think that was February, and I was up in Montana working the Fort Harrison VA. But I took a vacation to go with freedom fighters outdoors, which if you haven't gone on it, I recommend. They flew me down to Florida, got to go down to, I think it was Fort Lauderdale. We flew in, and we got to go deep sea fishing for free. They gave us a free ride, all kinds of free, just every swag you can imagine when it came to, outdoor gear and stuff. And that was fun. I'd always wanted to go, try to catch a marlin. I didn't catch one, but I did catch some good fish. And then we went bass fishing after that with a professional bass fisher. And then the last day was just fellowship, getting together, having a good time. But I remember on the way down there, on the way back, I kept seeing people with masks on, like whole teams, and I'd see like especially sporting teams, masks on. What the heck's going on? I don't know. There's something going on I don't know about. When I got down there, I heard people talking that had formerly been in like military intelligence and Stellar Connections, and especially some of the guys who were in like the health intelligence, PMT type stuff, for you and I, my lingua. And they were talking about something happening in China, and people, bodies being burned, and I'm like, what the heck is this? What is this? Some veteran conspiracy crap? And then it came, then I started hearing about COVID. And then Montana was, didn't know or admit that it had any yet. I got terribly sick a week or two later. Like I said, I was working the VA, and I went in to be seen because I had a upper respiratory infection from fucking hell. I was really so out of it that I could barely get up to make myself something to eat, a few times, let the dog out, and that's about it. I was sleeping the whole time. Went in to get seen, and the only time I've ever had a bad experience with a physician assistant, but had this Army reservist who was also a VA, PA in the ER. And every time I'd seen him before this, he'd always poo-pooed any URI I had. Like, oh, I'm not going to give you any antibiotics. Don't think you're going to get enough from me. You just need to let it run its course. And here I see him again, same type of crap. Well, I'm like, I'd like to be tested, for COVID. Oh, there's no COVID in Montana. I'd like to be the first to catch it. If it was, be the first to diagnose it, but there's not any. So I'm like, okay, give me his whole spiel about no antibiotics crap. So
Army. That's Army. That's Army for you. I'm just saying.
Yes, I have to absolutely totally agree. So I'm like, well, I need you at least give me second quarters, so I don't go infect everybody where I work. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay. So I go back a day or two after my SIQ's over. Mm-hmm. And, I was feeling a bit better. And wouldn't you know, as soon as I tried to drive up to the gate to Fort Harrison, completely blocked off. People, screening you, asking you where you've been, if you had a fever and all this junk. Oh,
so now it's important. Okay.
Now there is COVID. Yeah. So it just, that was
I'm sorry.
So that was quite an experience. Like I said, and then the VA, once they shut down everything except for COVID care, like no one could get any surgeries. So we weren't sterilized. They would have really hardly, equipment to sterilize. Anything except taking care of the people that were dying from COVID. So I got to actually be a corpsman again. Yeah. Nice. Oh, here used to be a medical. I'm like, yeah, I was an independent corpsman. Oh, we're going to use you as an LPN. And so I served as basically an LPN ICU and on just the strict COVID ward. Man, I mean, it was good to be treating people, but at the same time, man, the denial that I saw from folks just I was like, God dang it,
Yeah.
But in between that, I also worked for a bit in immigration. I was in charge of all the records for immigration in Montana. So I worked at USCIS, where they do the interviews for folks to get citizenship. And I was responsible for maintaining the immigrants' records. We helped, of course, we gave out green cards, you name it. Now, a shutdown came then. That was, under Trump. And folks don't realize it, but every body that uses USCIS, they pay fees. And people that work for immigration, we get our pay from those fees, not from taxpayers' money. So while Border Patrol wasn't getting paid and other people weren't getting paid, we were getting paid from that. So then, I can't remember how I've been there about a year and a half when Trump decided to furlough everybody at immigration. Yeah, it says there's a problem, which there's not. Yeah. Makes it a problem. Breaks it, and then wants to complain about it and why people aren't doing the legal thing when you make it to where they can't. But that's another discussion. We're here to talk, of course.
That's his theme. He creates problems and then tries to fix it over and over again.
Exactly. Yep.
I was in an exercise down at Fort Hood, and there was a deep impact to personnel getting sick. And they had to go to the emergency room. Even though I had a loadout, I wasn't prepared to have these kind of illnesses. So I sent a lot of people to the emergency room. And then once we got back, that's when COVID really exploded. I was the COVID manager, providing recommendations to my Commodore for COVID management. And then I deployed to Africa, where I rotated vaccine through Kenya, throughout Somalia. And that's where I took the vaccine. But
for the troops or for everybody?
For everybody, for bases, all of the outposts that were in Kenya and Somalia. So I did not have a good feeling about that vaccine because they made it out of thin air and then required us to take it. I know they've used mRNA in uh, like cancer treatment and everything, but I
Yeah.
just feel like it was really weird. Anyways, so I took it, but then I also sent a bunch of people to Longstool for serious consequences from the vaccine.
Yeah.
So
Well, I say it's I was just I made sure I got it quickly. But uh, I also know that I just was the same way in the military, and I had the whole huge controversy over getting what was a vaccine when you and I were in the, like say the 2000s that we were worried about and people were refusing.
anthrax?
Anthrax. Yeah, I was like, dude,
Yeah, I got 8 of
I've already
those.
watched. Yeah, I'm like me. I got so many. I'm like, I've already seen from living in a rural area what anthrax does to people. Like
Yeah.
that work with skin, slaughterhouses and things, and they've been taking it for years. I want to be the last man standing because I know that they have plenty of anthrax weapons that Russia didn't account for after the Cold War, came tumbling down. So I'm like, I don't want to be one to get it. So I gladly got it. I remember one of our, I don't know if you know that one of our classmates, I'm not going to say his, actually, no, he served with me in first Mardiv during Afghanistan. He was a few classes behind us in IDC school, but he got kicked out of, he lost his NEC because he tackled a sailor that wouldn't take the vaccine.
Oh my God.
Like,
It's not that serious.
he was a former scout sniper, and and just with an E4 trying to or E3 whatever it was, trying to tell him no, and and say wasn't gonna do it. Yeah, but
I do miss that tree light training though, bro.
yeah. Now, of course, I brought you on, like I said, because right now we know that we've got a war that just doesn't make any sense to you and me. And we've also got a Secretary of Defense that, man, I thought that Rumsfeld was a jackass and an asshole, but this one takes even the cake compared to him.
Oh, he's thoroughly embarrassing.
So, yeah, I'm gonna play us a funny little clip, and I'm gonna let you give your take on him. And let's see, who was Sec Def when you got out? Was that? Do you remember?
Nah, I didn't get any of those letters. Like, I don't know those people. I don't care.
Well, this one's gonna be. I think you'll enjoy this one. This take.
Saute bomb!
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Like I said, who needs generals when you got a Secretary of War Crimes that knows how to drop bombs like that, huh?
What do you think of that?
I still think he's a turd. That's what I think.
Yeah. I absolutely, I agree. Now, what's your take on his treatment of women in the service? Because you did 25 years of honorable service. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
So 2 of my best friends are still in, and they don't seem to have a problem with him. I don't have deep conversations with them, obviously, because I know that it was weird, but I know that our chats and stuff are monitored, so I just don't talk to them about that kind of stuff.
You don't want to be called back for prosecution?
Like I'm not worried about that.
Like you did to the commander, the senator, and that's also a Navy
Mark Kelly.
captain. Actually, what am I saying? Yeah.
I think Hegseth is an inadequate man he's fully unqualified for the position that he's in, and he likes these BAM statements like lethality, not legality, and he is signing his own death warrant by saying some of the things that he does, particularly saying that there's no quarter will be given to
To the prisoners of war. Or, yeah.
And that's a huge problem, because that's not legal by international standards, and it's not legal by our own standards. And he knows that.
Absolutely.
He knows that. He's a disgraced major anyways. I was reading about him. It said he had 2 Bronze Stars, but honestly, that's par for the course for his pay grade. I think he left as an instructor.
They all write themselves up for those and usually get them.
Yeah, they sure do. But
when I say they, I mean the officers.
Yeah. If you think about things like Signalgate, like he did that twice, what would happen to virtually anybody else who
you
did
and I
that?
would have been
using
sacked.
civilian comms, putting his wife, his brother, and his lawyer on the chat.
Yeah.
Like, that's civilian communications, and that's top secret information that he's disclosing on this Signal app. And then he's got, participants in his chat who are not even authorized to discuss that or view that kind of information. So any one of us would have been admin sept for those kind of actions. And for somebody who sets the tone of the military as a Secretary of Defense, he should have burned for that, honestly, because what does that say to the rest of us?
Well, that gets me, I've got folks where I work, someone's like, well, I heard that isn't actually a problem, that people do that all the time. I'm like, well,
No.
You've heard absolutely wrong. You never served in the military. I would have been fired. You worked for Naval Special Warfare. You are not allowed to do anything like that. You can't even go into the building without putting your phone into a secure location. So that you don't do stupid shit like that. And
I've been in the Pentagon. You are not allowed to have a civilian phone doing what he was doing. You're not allowed to. Like that was SCIF, like that was TS information that he was disclosing on that Signal
top
chat.
secret, in case for people that don't know, it's what you mean. Yeah, top secret.
Yeah, anybody would have burned for that, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, we could just go into a whole discussion about that. Does not happen to anyone except this guy. He's only one who get away with that. No, can't say enough. Well, let's look at another little clip and see what your take is. They're talking about how we've never had, number one, so much shakeup of leadership during a war that just sends a signal that we are weak. We also have never fired the head of the chaplain corps. And we know that this Secretary of Defense did not allow Catholics at the Pentagon to have a Good Friday service, but he announced he was allowing Protestants to. I mean, come on, are we just trying to completely divide America into his religious preference? This is something that, again, also I never saw in my career. I've only seen it now. Got a good take on this here.
Tonight, a shakeup at the Pentagon amid the ongoing war in Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has fired the Army top general. And a source tells CNN that Hegseth told Army Chief of Staff General Randy George to retire immediately. 2 other senior leaders are also active. Another source reveals that the decision to fire George was abrupt, but expected. George and Hegseth had been at odds for months after Hegseth blocked the promotion of several Army officers, including 2 women and 2 who are Black. The source says that George demanded to see Hegseth about the issue, but Hegseth denied the meeting. The purge comes days after President Trump signaled that the U.S. would intensify strikes in Iran as the Pentagon weighs a potential ground invasion. Isaiah Martin is here with us. It is even outside of all of the interpersonal drama, of which there is plenty about this. We're in the middle of a war, and the Army Chief of Staff and to just be purging members of the top military brass in this moment just seems unwise, if not just a great gift to our enemies in terms of what they can say about us in this moment.
Well, I certainly think that the Iranian regime couldn't have seen or gotten something better for them in this instance. I think ultimately what's happening right now is that the United States military is seeing that we're completely have a leadership that is just simply, we don't understand where we're going. I'm particularly concerned about the fact that, the target seems to be moving consistently. I know for this, first it said that there was not going to be a ground invasion. Then we see reports that there could potentially be one. I think that's an issue. And the fact that we're seeing this change in leadership right now, I think is a sign that we don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think to provide some context for it, right? So the armed services, so the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, their job is what we call man, train, and equip. Their job is to recruit the forces, train them, and make sure they're equipped to go to war. And then when we fight a war, there's a 4-star commander in charge of the combatant commands around the world, where we're basically broken up worldwide in geography, and there's a 4-star responsible for fighting in the different areas. So right now the war is being fought by U.S. Central Command. So there's a 4-star commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, down in Tampa, who's responsible for the fight. The Army's job is to transfer forces in accordance with the war plan if there's ground troops or the Navy or the Air Force, regardless. So the folks that were let go today or that were fired, you had the chief of chaplains. There's been a problem where I think the secretary said he had an issue with what he saw as secular humanism in the chaplains corps ranks. You want to
And
move
I
back?
just want to note that
Yep.
it's apparently the first time that
Yep.
the chief of chaplains has ever been fired.
Oh, yeah, in the history of the military.
It's a 4-year term.
In the history of the military, it's the first time there. The chief of the training side, he had issues with training, and then him, General George, you just mentioned, had an issue going back to that. But this is part of a series of firings that we've seen across the administration.
Now, Liz, of course, you look there. What do you notice about that former chief of chaplains?
Which one is he? See,
The guy in the middle.
oh, he's black.
Yep. There you go. So
I
know.
wouldn't. So this is what my brain does. I really enjoy patterns, right? Because we have to. And between Signalgate 1 and 2, he renamed the oiler Harvey Milk to he was a chief. Was he a corpsman? I don't remember. He was a chief. But he renamed the oiler Harvey Milk, USNS Harvey Milk, because the guy was a gay activist.
yeah,
He
but
deployed our
also had
National
been
Guard.
a Navy officer. Also, Milk had been, served
Yeah.
with
He
honor.
deployed our National Guard to California and DC. He renamed the Pentagon Department of War, which what does that convey? It doesn't convey not a defensive posture. That's not the implication of Department of Defense, but it's
Right.
not
It's in
a offensive posture like Department of War is, right?
Yep.
He potentially endangered all of our military senior leaders by having that bullshit pep talk where he brought everybody to Jeb or to Washington. He's restricted the press. He's attacked Mark Kelly for speaking out, saying literally what you're not supposed to do. He disallowed these selected generals from promoting, and by the way, they've already been selected on a selection list, right? And
Yep.
so Christian nationalism, now they're going to allow ICE to go to Marine Corps graduation. And he's fired all these leaders in the midst of a war. And you're absolutely right. It conveys weakness. It conveys disrespect to our troops. Oh, and finally, the sailors and servicemen who have been bombed out off of their camps, Camp Arifjan, Kuwait. I was there in 2006. Camp, was it Bahrain, Jafar?
Yep.
All those people have been evacuated at the last minute. There's no joint reception. They just bring them back here with the clothes on their back or maybe a backpack, and the military's done nothing for them. So in my mind, the Department of Defense up to the president is just conveying disrespect for us. They do not care about military people's welfare, their families' welfare. And veterans, that's a whole nother topic. But to do these things and expect people to fight and die for you is utterly disrespectful, right?
Absolutely.
You can't take care of us. If you can't take care of us, we're not going to fight for you the way you want us to.
Well, I like what I follow these guys a lot. OAF Nation, actually wearing one of their shirts right now.
Mhm.
Helps them make basically unbiased news, which I follow. It said, imagine you're the downed aviator in Iran, evading for your life while the IGRC is hunting you down, and your president is going full goof troop on social media while his son profits off people online betting on whether you live or die.
Oh yeah, and that's a whole
Dystopian
other thing.
as fuck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, son is making bets on whether that, aviator lives or dies. I mean, just could you ever have imagined that when you're on active duty, that you'd have a president's kid doing that?
No, but because it's Trump, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I don't understand. Why, our brothers and sisters who support him, why would they support him when it is very obvious that he's a poor leader? He talks reckless as fuck to people.
Yep.
He's rude, he's disgusting, he's making money off of his office, and they're still supporting him, but they can't name anything good that he's done. There's a Master Chief I used to work with the other day who told me, you've been around the world, Liz. You've seen disgusting places. And yes, I have. We all have. But that doesn't mean we're going to give our money away.
Right. We shouldn't be just like them.
I'm okay with that. What's that?
No, we shouldn't be just like them. I want to play what you were talking about here. First, though, let's look at this. It says, breaking an hour after announcing his resignation, the U.S. Army Chief of Staff says a madman will lead the great U.S. military to ruin.
Yep.
And here's what you were talking about. And let's let this, and again, this is OAF Nation. You told me about this, and I came and looked it up before it started. So we'll let him talk about what you were talking about just a second ago. This is someone talking about what the Navy had to go through.
Been evacuated from bases in the Middle East after they were attacked and returned home with practically nothing, having to rely on local charities for support. Hundreds of sailors had to evacuate from a Bahrain base, but NPR has also learned there have been evacuations at several other military bases in the region as well. In response to a request by NPR, a Navy spokesperson acknowledged that 1,500 sailors, their families, and several hundred pets were relocated back to the United States from NSA Bahrain. They've been arriving in Norfolk, Virginia since the middle of March, but several groups that provide aid to military personnel say that these sailors arrived with very little. A call went out to community groups asking for basic supplies like hygiene products. Derek Johnson, commander of American Legion Post 327 in Norfolk, said the base was asking for donations of toiletries and different things for the sailors coming back because they were coming back with nothing. He went on to say they literally told them, get what you can get in the backpack, you've got to go. They came with no uniforms, nothing. The three we first met, they came with the clothes on their back, what they could fit in that backpack. Considering how much taxpayer money gets spent on defense every single year, you'd think our troops wouldn't have to rely on charities for basic items. Hundreds of U.S.
Right?
That infuriates me.
You told me about that, and I can't believe that legacy media hasn't said anything about this. Have you heard it all?
Why? Because the media is bought and paid for now.
Yeah.
I think the most, now that I'm thinking about it, the most egregious thing that we've done was to kick off this war by killing 175 babies. Yeah. They denied it for days, and then they're like, okay, yeah, we did it.
Right, exactly. And try to blame it.
That's not the American way. That's not what we do.
Yeah, and try to blame it on the Iranians at first. I like what The Economist said here, but this is the front page of their magazine. Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yeah.
So,
they have given Trump enough rope to hang themselves, hang himself, and that's what he's doing. You know what I mean? Him and Hegseth put their heads together, and they're just freaking going like this and having a good time at it.
And I just want to put up here the resume of General Randy A. George. He enlisted in the Army in 82. He'd been in the military 40 years. Fought his way into West Point. So he started off enlisted and then spent a career in the active duty infantry, from platoon leader in the 101st Airborne Desert Storm to multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, commanding battalions, brigades, a division, and I Corps just before becoming the 41st Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army. Along the way, he earned a Bronze Star with 3 oak leaf clusters, a Purple Heart, a Combat Infantryman badge, a Ranger tab, and a Senior Parachutist badge with Combat Jump. The resume of someone who has led from the front and bled with his soldiers. So, he should be the next Secretary of Defense, but that's just me.
I dare say he's more qualified than this entire administration put together.
Yep. Now, someone here said, General Randy George getting pushed out by the Pete Kegsbreath, Whiskey Pete as I call him, in the middle of a war is exactly what happens when politics are allowed to matter more than experience, stability, and the lives of the people actually fighting. So General George is a career infantryman enlisted in 82, as I said there, right? So his move isn't just a personal decision, it's a message. Fall in line with the personality cult, or your record, your expertise, and your duty to speak hard truths won't protect you. So doing that in peacetime would be reckless, but doing it in wartime rips out continuity, disrupts planning, and tells every officer down the chain that loyalty to Trump matters more than competence and candor. I would expect this if we were in the 1940s early on and we were in a country that started with a G, ended with a Y. Yeah. But not with this one here. So
I get the impression, so these are two things that I've thought about a lot. I think they're being so intentionally reckless on purpose because they know that nobody is going to stop them. Even though they are doing things that are extraordinarily illegal, Congress, that check and balance is gone. I hope all of those motherfuckers get replaced.
Well, we're working on it. And I just got to say, y'all, anybody that's watching, I think most of us here have either rural values or, real deep seated values like Liz and I use in the military. Remember, for me, it was passed down to me by my papa and mama. My papa taught me it is our duty to work hard for our family, for me to pay my taxes, get educated, and love my neighbor as myself. Now, these are not the Epstein values, of course, of the Epstein class. They weren't taught that. But folks with what I call hillbilly roots like mine, we live by grit and community. Now, you don't have to be a hillbilly to have a real working class mentality. I think, knowing you from what I knew of you that year in school, you've got that. I'd say that's that immigrant grit that, not saying you're an immigrant, but I know you had that roots.
I'm first generation in the United States.
There you go. And they, that first generation, I teach, as I was telling you, daily, kids, a lot of my students, their parents are Cuban. So the kids, immigrated over here from Cuba, others from Mexico, Central America. Those kids are the most disciplined. I call their parents, they get them in line right away. They say, hey, we didn't bring you to America to act like a jackass. And they'll make apologize to us teachers for their misbehavior. I don't get that, from a lot of other kids. Some I do, some Americans, they still have those values, but we've got to get back to them. And, my roots, they run from here in Hardin County over to Meade County, which is next door, all the way deep into Appalachia and Morgan County, Elliott County, Hardin County. But we know the things that make our daily toils worthwhile, are that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. Now, although there should be no price on these rights, we know that life has now become a commodity because we're just, all bought and sold by an algorithm on our phone minute by minute. And also, these stupid smartphones are leading us into a real division. So we know that we can't afford healthcare, and so there is a price on our life. If we can't afford it, you and I, of course, thank God, have the VA.
Mhm.
Let it stand, and TRICARE for life. But folks that don't, there is a price on their life, and the price is don't get sick enough to really need a doctor, or you can't
Yeah.
pursue that life, So
Immigrants
that
pay billions of dollars into our tax system, and they don't get anything for it.
same with they also pay into Social Security. People don't, talk about
Right.
that. Don't get anything for it. We've seen a net drop in our Social Security coming into the nation since we've been taking folks out that work hard.
Yeah, well, it's because the government spent all of our Social Security money. They've spent it
Yep.
elsewhere. They've not left it just for the welfare of our elders.
And see, I'm of Generation X, and I remember in the '90s, everybody talking for years and years, from the '80s to the '90s. Oh, they will leave no Social Security for Generation X. Well, then, whether you like him or not, when Bill Clinton was in office, he worked and got it to where Social Security was solvent, and it was going to be solvent for many, 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 many generations. But then what came after him? George Bush Jr. And what did he do? He dipped into Social Security funds to fight that war, and instead of being
That
willing
fucking
to
war
raise
where
the
we lost
taxes.
a lot of people.
Yep, 20-year war, which, yeah. So, our life again is just deemed worthless by the Epstein class, and this just cannot abide. That's what I'm coming to conclude. So it's time for all Kentuckians, heck, all the United States, to vote out supporters of the Epstein class up and down the ballot. Doesn't matter if you're voting for, something local like I'm running in. You got to get rid of anybody who thinks that billionaires and multimillionaires, they're worth more than you and me. They're worth more than the folks who have worked their ass off all their life and always will.
Right.
And when I left Kentucky to join the Navy in 1990, it was a completely different Kentucky, y'all.
I have never forgot you're on the cover of that book.
I gotta bring that out and show it one of these times.
Yeah.
But I think most of us here, again, I think we have rural values. I know you now live on at least 2.5 acres, so you know what I'm talking about. And like I said, they were passed down to us by our mamas and papas, our abuelas and abuelos. But we know that, again, there's folks who didn't get that. And in order for us to really turn this country around, we've got to all come together. We've got to say, okay, I don't care if you're left or if you're right or if you're center. We got to recognize we're not the Epstein class.
Right.
So
Well,
we've got to boot them out.
I think it's important for whoever's watching to understand I was formerly a registered Republican, and now I'm a registered independent. But the things that I'm seeing make me so irate because they're fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
All of us wanted change. In 2024, all of us wanted change. Biden was a fucking retard. He was old and sleepy, but guess what? Trump is doing the same thing that Biden was doing. Same exact thing.
Yeah, Biden actually got work done, but he did it behind the scenes. He did it, he brought people together to compromise. That working for this Build Back Better program, that was creating jobs across the nation. But he wasn't a blowhard who had to brag about anything he did. That's the problem, is that now we live in for social media bites. And if you're not constantly out there bragging and talking about what you do and pounding your chest as it being all about you, we live in a self-centered America. And that's not what when I left, like saying at 18 to join the military, I wouldn't have said that. But since I joined in 1990, I've come back to everybody thinks they're John Wayne or the Lone Ranger riding across the prairie, not getting any help from anybody else and fighting things on their own. But that's just not the reality. We need
Yeah.
community. From the military, there's no fucking Rambos. You have to, if you can't rely on the person to your left and the person to your right in combat, then you can't, you're going to lose the battle. You have to
Even the
know that no
most,
matter.
even the most elite amongst us, and I'm talking about the SEALs, GBs, those guys, they rely on support staff to keep them going. So you're right. Everybody, to get things, big things accomplished, you have to have support. You got to have the man to your left and right running on all cylinders, and you got to have that support staff doing the same.
You and I had to make sure that everyone was healthy. We couldn't let someone slide through the cracks because they were E1, E2, or E3. Before we go on, we've had so many comments here. I don't want to ignore anybody. And we got some really freaking good ones. I'm going to go back to the beginning, but I got to hit what this guy, said. He said, "Who did y'all vote for?" Well, I voted for Biden. I support him. I feel did way more than this, lion sack of shit that we got in there right now. Ryan says, "Why didn't you guys just read Project 2025? It was all in there." I did read it. I did. Pretty sure you did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you and I definitely did. We knew,
It's 53% accomplished, by the way.
Oh, God dang. And have you ever read the Handmaid's Tale?
Nope, but I watched the whole thing. We're living it.
Well, I watched one episode, and it was way too realistic for me. I'd read the book, but it made it. I'm like, it's too. It's
the
too on the
dynamics
nose.
in the show are very interesting. It's
when that was written?
The whole thing. Sorry.
Do you know when it was written? The book.
I don't.
I assumed that it was written in the 2016, something era. No, it was written in 1984. The writer saw what Reagan was doing and was like, "Oh, she predicted all this." Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
in some respects, Reagan was the start of this.
Yep, totally. Tom here says it's going to be their world soon enough. I want them to have critical thinking skills and the knowledge to do good things. I think he was talking about you and I talked about teachers.
Yeah. On that note, that's a very good point. They, to your, like what you were saying about phone devices and everything. Yeah. Our critical thinking skills are diminishing because we're just taking in information passively and we're not acting on anything. That was intentional.
Yeah.
That has been intentional.
Totally. You got it. Totally intentional.
And so thinking back to our time in service, some of the things that are happening now, like if somebody asked me to press the button and the target was a children's school in Iran, I would not do it. I'd tell you to fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But what I think happened was they used AI to select and execute targets.
Yes, they are, and that's
I mean, you've been in a jock before. When you're doing it live and there's a jock full of people, they are making sure that there's no children, there's no women, there's no other innocents, so they can execute a precise target.
Tell everybody what that acronym stands for.
What's that?
Tell them what that, people that are watching that weren't in the military, what that acronym stands for.
Which one? What'd I say?
Jock and Talk.
Oh, Tactical Operations Center. That's what those first casualties, they were in a Tactical Operations Center. And that's where all of our live feeds are. That's where we're watching, we're watching the movement of all of our people that we're tracking live. That's where the Commodore or the commanding officer is, and they're, giving direction to people that are executing orders. And a JOC is a Joint Operations Center. So I did not ever get my TS. That's a whole nother subject, but I was in a JOC. I've been in plenty of talks, And that's not how you do business. Like what happened is not how you do business. That target that they selected, the Manab school, they used, and this is, hearsay, this is what I've been taking in from the media, but they used target information from 2013.
I was going to say yes, because
that school was part of a bigger base.
Yes.
And
we also fired everyone, in military intelligence that was not you got to say it, bootlicker for this president.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about getting rid of right now all these leaders in the military and putting in sycophants like Tulsi Gabbard, and go on down from her in the intelligence community. We've gotten rid of anyone who would have been able to tell us better.
Right. So that's a perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
That's a perfect storm. They're using AI to select targets and not allowing them. That's the problem that Hegseth had with Claude. He wanted the ability to allow AI to select and execute targets all by itself without humans. So that appears what happened with the Manab school. That is the most egregious thing that we could have ever done.
And then he declares Claude, the owners of Claude, to be, what was it? What label did he put on them? Basically made them like enemy of the state.
He blackballed them.
Yeah, but he said that they were, they're buying something from them was a national security threat. Bullshit. That he's trying to set us up to be Terminator. You talk about another science fiction dystopia. I mean, this is Terminator stuff.
Right. So that's
AI
my second
making
point.
Decisions on who to kill.
Yeah, that's my second point is, again, just like Trump, he's creating problems by taking out very key players in the process and then bulldozing over it, I guess. He's creating problem, and then our young people's lives are going to fall on that problem.
Yep.
Like, do we know what the casualty count is right now? They bypass those questions whenever they're asked.
Well, apparently many people are saying they're lying to us about the numbers. I mean, obviously they didn't even talk to us about how they've had to evacuate men, women, children, dogs, and cats from Bahrain. That hasn't made the fucking news, and all the other places. That hasn't been on the radar of the news.
That's what they said.
Yeah. Ryan here is saying you don't have any critical thinking skills. That's why you voted for Trump, Bush, and BS wars. I assume he's not talking to us because
neither of us voted for Trump. Next.
Yeah, exactly. I did not vote for it. I'm calling for everyone right now. We've got to, get over left versus right. We just got to get over and crush this whole idea that there's two justice systems. One justice system for the Epstein class, which they can get away with anything they ever want to do, doesn't matter. And
unless
then the justice system for anybody left, unless you say something like obviously the general did.
And that's the problem. They're keeping us divided by this party system and by gender and by race. Once we get past that, we can unite and stand up together.
Yeah.
But we have to do that.
Yep. Well, and this is, I don't think we're the only ones who are seeing this and worried about it, in the military. That's what, that's my take. And I think that's one of the first times that I've, since I've been in and around the military, that I've seen folks really like, you know what, even hardcore right wingers, like, the guy that left the Trump administration. What was his name? That was part of the security apparatus there. He's like, no, former Army guy and combat vet. Like, no, I see who we're fighting this for, and I'm not going to be a part of it. And I don't think he's the only. Obviously, he's not the only person. Obviously, the generals are trying to say, hey, this is not the right direction to head.
The good thing about those generals, though, is now they can testify in front of Congress.
Yeah,
All of
if they
them.
will, and many of them will not be willing to. I wonder if this one will. I hope he will. He
I
had 40 years
not.
in. I mean, what the heck they're going to do to someone with 40 years in? You know.
Yeah.
But again, this is I'm here only 15 minutes from Fort Knox, which is in this county here. We've got so many people over there. They're still reeling from the shutdown. Then we've got businesses outside the base here still trying to make up the losses from the shutdown, from the folks from the base not being able to come out and buy stuff. And then now, last year we had all the farmers, their soybeans had to rot, in the field because they couldn't sell them to Canada or China due to the tariff wars. And then now we're starting planting season and they can't get the urea necessary for the fertilizer. Any fertilizer that they are selling is getting jacked up. And I was just talking to a farmer today, said, yeah, there's even a lot of fertilizer that has been ready, but they're price gouging them now, knowing that they can get a higher price, way higher price for it. And so,
but right-wing Argentina got 40 million. 40
exactly.
million? 40 billion.
Billion. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah. It's just, we've got to realize that they're not for us. They're not. No matter who, left, right, center. Like I said, they're not for us.
Exactly.
And look here, it's saying, hey.
Out of here.
So I wonder if that is footage from, where we're talking about folks coming back, or getting ready to go, be deployed.
I challenge anyone to tell me what this administration has done for our people.
Well, and then did you hear what the president said just yesterday or the day before? We're not going to pay for Medicare.
Yeah, we don't have money for
Medicaid.
that. We have money for war.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My mom can't pay for any medical care. She's 80. And so if she has to go to the hospital again, you're going to tell me that I'm going to have to watch her die because I don't have any pocket money to pay for her to be taken care of.
Right.
That's not what I want to, that's not, anything that I ever dreamed I would have to do in this nation. And I don't want to do, I don't think anyone else should have to. I don't know. Are your parents still with us or?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I worry about me,
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I worry about our losing our VA, healthcare.
Yeah.
And, my wife is a breast cancer survivor. I don't want to see our TRICARE messed with. I wouldn't be surprised, that'll be coming,
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I don't think we should have to see. I think we've got to all agree it's time. When I left this state, 1990, like I said, it was not like it is now, but I came back and I could not believe what 30 years of Moscow Mitch, because that's where he's from here, had done to my beloved old Kentucky home. And I'll just never forget that my dearly beloved Papa, Dr. Spencer, would take me on house calls way out in the middle of nowhere,
Oh, wow.
in the early 1970s, all the way up until he was bedridden in 1999. And every household and every fishing trip in rural Kentucky was a lesson for me on what it meant to be the person that would faithfully serve your community and to be a Democrat. Every time we would be out fishing and be like, oh, they must know that we're Democrats. They're biting today. He just loved working with the governor that he was best friends with was Governor Burt Combs. And with that guy, he was able to get the first free immunizations in Eastern Kentucky. We never had that type. And, to get so much stuff done for poor folks, because he had grown up dirt poor. in his before someone took him under his wing to say, hey, you can get to medical school, I'll help you. But that was in impoverished Appalachia. And he told me how he made sure that the Kiwanis built the first public pool and tennis courts in Eastern Kentucky. That's again in Appalachia, where dirt poor folks. But as much as he touted every good fishing trip as being because, like I said, he knew the Bass knew we were Democrats, he also pointed out a 10-mile stretch of road when we would drive down, to go fishing, that he said, had only Republicans living on it. This is back when his county was all Democrat, before I came back, from my time away. And he proudly told me how he had gotten their road paved after years of that 10-mile stretch of road being only dirt road, because his friends that were judge executives, Democratic judge executives, wouldn't pay it, knowing that they voted Republican, right? He made sure, like I say, even though he was a Democrat, he made sure that those folks got a paved road. He's like, yeah, they might be Republicans, but I know them. They're good people. They take care of the family. They work hard. They're just, hardworking farmers. So he was proud of that. Now, do you think, Liz, that would happen today, with current folks? If they saw,
we discussed this a little before. You see a lot of, I'm just going to say it, white people attacking minorities recently in the past year. And to me, that's like it's very perplexing, because when did your identity become a party?
Yeah.
Like when did you just entirely engender like Trumpism or the Republican Party? You know what I mean? Like,
and like I said, I've followed Kentucky all through my military career. I used to come home on leave to vote. Even though could be all over, station Florida, North Carolina. Well, I paused that when I lived in Virginia and then Montana for a while, because I bought houses there. I'm like, okay, I better vote where my kids are going to school. But then since I came back, back to being involved and caring. But look at my grandparents. These are folks born in the early 1900s, and they weren't racist assholes. They were country folks. So it's not a country value. It's not a country thing. They were, they had a son out of their, they had 3 kids, 2 daughters, one boy. My uncle was gay. They accepted him. And that's in an area where, a lot of people will disown their kids if they come out as that. And I didn't know until my uncle died a few years ago that he actually had HIV and AIDS, and had it since the early 80s when that first came out. And I know that my grandfather paid for him to get the first and earliest treatment for it so he could survive all the way until the 2000s,
wow.
So everybody talks as if, rural people are all racist assholes. It's not true, but we have been abandoned when it comes to, the Democratic Party. They became the party just of the urbanites, and
that's why I do not subscribe to any of these parties.
Well, we've got to get back to, we got to get back to, we all care for each other, and we recognize, hey, folks in rural areas like I'm in, if it wasn't for, having the base right now with all the trouble, with soybeans not getting sold last year, and even way before now, the communities have just been shriveling up as folks head off to the city, and farming has become just more mechanized and become about machines planting everything. I think you were talking about, you've seen, there's people planning on there just being no humans actually planting the fields. And
we're moving
just
towards
being
a
robots.
crisis.
Yeah. And so I've been talking about that, how we got to get back to small time farmers, all of us growing our, victory gardens too, in addition to that, and helping each other out that way,
Absolutely.
So let's see, we got some last comments here. Human behavior expert Chase Hughes in a recent podcast discussed how the CIA recruits social media influencers with bribes, coercion, and blackmail to have them push or avoid certain talking points. Yeah. And I'm sure there's many other state media from other countries that are doing the exact same thing with their influencers.
This will only work if people sell their souls.
Yeah.
Like if Hegseth and JD Vance and the entire cabinet 2 years ago would not have sold their souls, we would not be doing this right now.
Yeah. And so that's the whole deal. And it is back to Project 25, selling your souls and selling us all down the river,
The only way this is gonna work for them, they're buying, like, why do you think they're giving ICE such a huge stipend? Why they're buying up all these warehouses to house people in? It's not for immigrants, dude. It's for us. It's for dissenters.
Well, and
block cameras everywhere. They're putting up cameras everywhere. They're monitoring our comms. Like, it is intentional, and they're going to put dissenters in those warehouses.
And of course, there'll be Amazon paying for all that crap. I just still can't get over, before we close off here, the fact that they are sending ICE to South Carolina to Marine Corps boot camp to lock up. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, and we talked about before the show, to grab the parents of folks that are graduating. I've served with so many immigrants in my career who loved the country just as much, maybe even more sometimes, than me, because they really believed in the American dream. They believed in the possibility. They worked their ass off, and served hardcore and with honor. So to think that you would go and do that, knowing how many of these Americans are there, but maybe their parents aren't, and you want to grab them like that, that's
atrocious. It's atrocious. It's disrespectful. Who wants to serve knowing that you're going to grab up their family members? Like, they will not be able to concentrate on their work. But also, I mean, what is it? Is it the fear that they're going to lose their job? I mean, that may be what's going on in service members' minds. But if you're pressing that button, you're going to go down with the rest of them. And I hope you do, because
ICE denied it, but then it was the Marine Corps that brought out, like, no, here's proof. They showed proof that that's what they were being told. So thank you, Marine Corps, for standing up for these folks that have been, they some of my radiomen in when I was with the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, was an immigrant from Mexico. He was a Mexican Indian, not even mestizo, but full Indian. And he went on after I left first Mardiv and went over to Sicily and was with Navy EOD and over there, as their corpsman. But he went on with a big push into Iraq, after we had been in Afghanistan together. And man, he got messed up. When I say messed up, I mean, I know that what he saw over there stuck with him big time. And so when he did his finished his tour, he got out, and before they could give him the backdoor draft and stop lossing, he took a motorcycle trip from San Diego all the way down to Argentina. He invited me to go along, and I'm like, man, if I wasn't still on active duty, I want to.
Right.
But I mean, just again, he was just an amazing guy. Went through hell in combat, and we're gonna kick people on the balls like that.
Yeah.
No.
It's shameful.
Anything to leave us with before we sign off here?
It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from.
Yeah,
we
we're all about.
We need to unite and resist.
That's it.
We have to. Our lives, and more importantly, the lives of our children depend on it.
Absolutely. They depend on us not giving into the Epstein class. It's all about our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness together. Yeah. Well, Liz, I appreciate you coming on. I know you've been following me here for a bit. Appreciate you watching the show. And hopefully we can come on next time. You can tell me how you're doing with your own, little micro farm. You're going to start there, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is as close as I've gotten. And I got all my seeds right here.
We'll get to it. We'll do it. It'll be a good thing.
But
hey, thanks for your 25 years, man. You made it longer than me.
Thank you, my bro.
Freaking awesome. Whenever you want to come visit Bourbon Country, come on with the grandkids, And heck yeah. And the daughters, they want to do a little traveling. All right, y'all. Here, as we were saying, neither one of us are fortunate sons or daughters, but we grew up knowing that Kentucky's motto, even though it's not, necessarily Maryland's where you live now, but it still holds, to united we stand, divided we fall. And we can't be divided if we're loving our neighbors as ourselves, if we're recognizing that we are our brother's keeper and we are our sister's keeper. And according to what I, read in the Bible, we're all brothers and sisters of each other, or at least we can have a chance to be. So we should never treat anybody like we aren't. Y'all, bless your corazón, which is Espanol for heart. And remember those deployed overseas, please. Remember the pilots that we're still trying to hopefully get before the enemy gets them. And good God Almighty, I feel for those who got snatched out of Bahrain, all those other places, and the media didn't even have the balls to say what kind of hell they went through. But that is what it is. You don't have, it's been a great one, Liz. Thanks.
Hey, one last thing. It might not affect you right now. Whoever you are out there, it might not affect you right now, but it's going to. And it's not going to be good. We have to unite and resist.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks, Spence. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. And hopefully, we can we'll do it again. Like I said, let's talk about something fun, like maybe farming next time around. And tell me how yours is hanging out.
On farms across the